Hello folks, how you doing? Today we're going to tie a pink punk colour scheme, is what I call it, and it's a flashy hollow. Basically it's a Popovic's hollow deceiver, Bucktail deceiver, but it's got a few extras in there, and you know, I tie like this for Pike and Zander. So in terms of sizing, this is the medium size that I tie. It's a 6-inch fly. I tie it down to 4.5 inches for Zander and Pike if they're getting picky, or I could tie it bigger, sort of 7-8 inches. But typically the sizes that I fish the most are either the 6-inch or the 4.5. So in the vise we've got a Ahrex Trout Predator 610, and it's a 2.0. And thread we're going to be using GSP 100, which I lightly wax. So lay a thread base down. The first step is to use some bucktail. Bucktail on the end part there. And what that does, it just prevents any flash fouling around the hook bend. So I'm taking a, 3.5, 4-inch piece. I'm just going to tie a couple of wraps over the top. Just use my thumb to push the bucktail around. Hold the longer section so it doesn't spin, and then pull down tight and cover those butts. Now a little drop of glue. Now to extend the tail out a little bit more, we're going to use a blend of white Flashabou. Now, folks that follow me on Instagram will know I like my white Flashabou. And mixed with that is some Hedron Polar Flash and some no brand synthetic. Now you could use whatever. I think I've said it in the last couple of videos. Yak is a good alternative, a little bit stiffer than the synthetics, which might be useful. Steve Fibre blend, Gliss and Glint, jerkback pike skins, saltwater fibre, but it's all very similar to the genetic stuff that I get here. So I've just blended all those 3 materials together and tapered them to save a bit of time. So I'm just going to tie them in on top. And I'm just going to separate this front section here and just wrap it all the way around. So top, bottom, sides. We're talking pike flies here, so we don't have to be super tidy. They're not particularly fussy fish. And come forward about 5mm. Take some more glue. And take some more bucktail. About 3 inches. Not a huge amount. Get rid of any short fibres. So we're probably going to come to about here. I'm going to tie this in hollow. This is a flashy hollow. Again, use your thumb to spread that bucktail all the way around. Make sure you've got even coverage. Hold those butt ends, pull tight. A few wraps, secure it. Have a quick look. Use your push tool. That looks good. And gently tease those fibres back. And then build a dam in front. Now if you find your thread slipping on the dam, you could drop a super glue in there, or you can just add a little bit of wax and it will stick. So we're looking for about 45-degree angle. And again, we're going to take some synthetic and flash blended. This is a slightly shorter piece, which I've pre-blended to save a bit of time. You don't want to watch me do that. It'd be like watching paint dry. Again, we're going to lay over the top, but not quite as long as the last piece. So we're going to maybe an inch shorter. So 60-40 on top. And what I'm going to do with this is just split it in half like that. And I'm going to come underneath just to fill in the underside of the fly a bit more. Otherwise it looks a bit top heavy. Do the same on the other side. Like that. Bring your thread forward about 3 mil. Now we're going to take some strung fuzzy fibre. This is bright pink. And it's called a pink punk because of the name, because of the colour of the strung fuzzy fibre. It has a sort of pink inside, sort of core. So the colour really sort of, the name really is for the colour rather than actual fly. It is a bucktail deceiver or a hollow deceiver. So what we're doing with this, we're just tying it on 60-40 and we're just going to split it in half and then tie those sides in horizontal to the fly, just to give it a bit of width. So bring your thread forward, again take some more bucktail. So we're going to add a little bit more bucktail this time, just to build it up. But slightly shorter. So I'm going to come to about here. Add a drop of glue before we tie it in. The more glue you add, the stronger the fly will be. The jacks especially have a habit of messing these flies up quite quickly. So you want to try and make them as durable as possible if you can. Because they're not the cheapest things to buy. Especially bucktails. Bucktails are a little bit more expensive than full synthetic flies. They take a bit more time, you know, quite a bit more skill involved to tie them properly. So you sort of get what you pay for really with bucktails. But they do in our fish great. Move lovely in the water. This is why we use bucktail a lot. Just build a dam in front of that. Not too much. So the next time we're going to just, with no synthetic, just some white Flashabou and some silver polar flash. I've pre-blended this already, so I'm just going to tie it over the top. Slightly shorter again. Just tie it in. That was a bit scruffy, that one, but it would do. Excuse me. Now we need a bit more pink. I mean, you could use a brush if you want to, in between there, if you're a brush maker. I'm not, so I prefer dubbing loops. I just find them quicker, a little bit more flexible. But you don't have to dub and loop this. Literally just tie it in, split it like that, then tie down one side, turn it over, tie the other, come forward. Now for the last bucktail we can use a silver grey on the top. I'm going to go for a slightly longer bucktail this time to create the wing. It just gives that fly a nice coloration on top. You know, it's typical to a bait fish. They tend to have a darker back. So I'm just going to lay a bit more thread down here. I'm going to tie that bucktail in. I'm going to take a white. I've got a slightly softer white here. I'm going to tie it slightly shorter underneath. Like that. Don't bother cutting those butt ends off. They actually give the fly a little bit of buoyancy and lift as well for the bucktail. And then get your push tool and push that back. So we've got a bit more bucktail on the front here, and that's to support the nayat's head that's going to come. So we want to build a dam in front of this. You can add feathers if you want to. I'm going to add some in the flank as a lateral line. Push that back. So I'm going to use some Erwing. Now I like these because they're nice and short and they're great for like lateral lines. It saves me having to cut up a long saddle feather in half. So I'm just going to pick out some, medium size feathers here of similar sizes. So I'm just going to tie that in. It's only about 3 inches. Don't want it too long. If they're too long, they will foul around the hook. Tie that stalk back over and just break it off. Tie that in. You can strip the feathers off, but I don't bother. Tie that back. Break it off. So that's the lateral line tied in. So it's starting to take shape now. So the last step before we get to the eyes is to add some nayats. And what I've done with this nayat is I've blended a light grey and a dark grey together with some angelina fibre. Angelina fibre comes in bags like this, all larger, as cheap as chips. So it just adds a bit of glint to the fibres. So I'm going to tie that in 60-40 on top. And I've got white again, just mixed with some angelina fibre, which is slightly shorter than the back. So it's going to come underneath. Tie that in. Make sure we've got good coverage. Like so. We can add a drop of glue in here over those wraps so it soaks in. Like that. And then fold that front back. Turn your vise sideways and use your thumb to push the underside back as well. Now if you've crowded the eye, which I have done here, which I always do, just gently tease it back by twisting and it should go back fine. Now bring your thread forward and underneath between the grey and the white and start building a dam in front of it, because that dam will push those fibres back like we do with the bucktail. So I'm going to run out of thread any minute now. Always the way. There we go. I've literally got hardly any thread left. I'm going to make a mess of this. Try and get a whip finish in here. Just enough thread by the skin of my teeth. I would have liked a little bit more of an angle further back, but as with when you're filming, this is take 3 by the way. I had camera problems in the previous 2, so not ideal. Right, last step is to add some eyes. Now I'm going to use Evo Stick Serious Glue because I'm not allergic to it, to blend into the fibres first. So I'm going to put a good coverage all the way around the head. And that, what that does as well, it helps me shape the head a little bit more. So if it's a bit wild, which, you know, it's quite often possible with when you're tying, it does help you shape as that glue dries. So I'm just going to put a generous amount in there, not tons, but a generous amount. I'll just use my needle to blend it into the nayat. What that does, it just strengthens the head a bit more, keeps those materials in place, they won't slip through the thread then. Do that all the way around until you're satisfied. And take some more glue, add a dollop on either side for the eyes. Like that. Now I like to use flat eyes because they're, in my opinion, a lot easier and a lot more durable. You find with the 3D eyes they tend to fall apart quite quickly. The epoxy on top is it's never particularly strong, and pike especially tend to get their teeth into it and pull it off, and you're fishing one-eyed flies and you lose confidence pretty quickly. So I like to use flat eyes, and plus these are a little bit lighter, but what you do need to do with them is to make sure they're coated with, you know, your glue of choice. I mean, the strongest glues are the ones that take longer to cure. So I like to use Gorilla Glue clear on mine, but as I said in previous videos, you need a dryer for that, to spin it to get a good finish on them. So what I do is let that set for a couple of minutes, check they're straight, and there we go, job done. And then once that glue's dried, I'll come in with a marker, colour in that thread, and add a bit of dark to the nayat as well, and then I'll come over with the Gorilla Glue all over the eyes, all over the top, all over the bottom, you know, so it's got a good coverage. There we go. Then that's the Pink Punk Flashy Hollow. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, give it a like, give it a share if you like, subscribe to the channel, I'd be really appreciated if you do, and look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you, bye.